A disclaimer before we start, all of my sources are in the description below. Please keep in mind when you watch this video, there are very few pictures and paintings of this ship. This ship has a lot of service history, surprisingly, so I did 2 videos about it, breaking it down. This is purely out of passion. I get excited just thinking about these videos. I know people don't like AI voices. I don't use my real voice because 1, I don't have a subscription yet. 2, I'm not good at voiceovers at all. 3, I'm not comfortable having my voice out there. I have a stutter, ADHD, and a learning disability, which makes it harder. I did a test and I am on the autism spectrum. I can be nuts in real life, which makes people around me think I'm on drugs, but no, I just have a lot of energy inside. The point of my videos is to learn something, not to be entertained. So enjoy the video, like and subscribe. The ship was commissioned in June 1863 for a tour abroad. This came after intense debate between elements of the Naval Command and the administration over the reliability of the ship's steam engines for an extended overseas cruise. Preussischer Adler was to be sent to the eastern Mediterranean Sea along with the gunboats Basilisk and Blitz. At the time, unrest in the Kingdom of Greece threatened German interests and had in 1862 led to the removal of King Otto of Greece, a member of the German House of Wittelsbach, from the Greek throne. Corvettenkapitan, KK, Corvette Captain, Gustav Klatt served as the ship's commander and as the leader of the flotilla during the deployment. A secondary purpose of the cruise was to patrol the mouth of the Danube at Sulina on the Black Sea, a right granted to Prussia and the other European great powers, excluding Russia, under the terms of the Treaty of Paris that had ended the Crimean War in 1856. Preussischer Adler, Basilisk and Blitz departed Kiel on the 19th of September and reached Piraeus, Greece, on the 9th of October. From there they passed through the Dardanelles and Bosporus into the Black Sea to patrol the Danube, but they remained there only briefly before receiving orders to return home on December 3rd, owing to the rise in tensions between Denmark and the German states. Boiler problems aboard Preussischer Adler, coupled with heavy coal usage, slowed the voyage back to Prussia, and they had only reached Brest, France by February 3rd, 1864, by which time war had again broken out between Denmark and the German Confederation. The Second Schleswig War had resulted from Denmark's November Constitution, passed in 1863, which integrated the duchies of Schleswig, Holstein and Lauenburg with Denmark, a violation of the London Protocol that had ended the First Schleswig War. The crisis between Denmark and the German Confederation erupted into open conflict on February 1, 1864, after the Prussian and Austrian empires delivered an ultimatum to Denmark to cede the disputed duchies to Austro-Prussian control. At the time, the Danish fleet was far superior to the Prussian naval forces available, which allowed the Danes to blockade the German coast. To assist the Prussians, the Austrian navy sent Commodore Wilhelm von Tegethoff with the screw frigates Schwarzenberg and Radetzky to break the Danish blockade. While Tegethoff's ships were still en route from the Mediterranean, the 3 Prussian ships remained in Brest for several days, owing to the uncertain situation in the North Sea. The Prussians were not certain as to the location of Danish warships in the area, and did not want to risk sending the small flotilla into a possible action with superior enemy forces. By February 15th, the Prussians had ascertained that the Danish navy had sent only the screw frigate Niels Juel into the English Channel, so the Naval Command ordered Klatt to return home. From Brest, the ships steamed to Cherbourg, France to replenish coal. They then hugged the coast to avoid contact with Niels Juel and stopped in Den Helder, the Netherlands, on the 15th of February. There they waited until Tegethoff's frigates arrived, joining forces to make the last and most dangerous leg of the trip back to Cuxhaven. During this period, the Danes had organized a North Sea squadron to patrol for German ships in the area. Tegethoff arrived on the 1st of May and took command of the Austro-Prussian squadron, which departed for Cuxhaven 2 days later. On the morning of May 9th, Tegethoff learned that a Danish squadron consisting of the steam frigates Niels Juel and Jylland and the corvette Heimdall were patrolling off the island of Heligoland. Tegethoff took the 5 ships under his command out to attack the Danish vessels, resulting in the Battle of Heligoland. Preussischer Adler and the other Prussian ships remained on the disengaged side of the Austrian frigates, taking shots at the Danish vessels when possible, though they had little success. After Schwarzenberg caught fire, Tegethoff broke off the action and escaped to the neutral waters around Heligoland, where the ships remained until early the next day. During the period off Heligoland, the Prussian vessels sent their doctors to the Austrian frigates to help tend to their wounded. Preussischer Adler had not been hit or suffered any casualties. The next morning, the ships returned to Cuxhaven, with Preussischer Adler carrying many of the wounded to a hospital at Altona. Though the Danish squadron had won a tactical victory at Heligoland, the arrival of Austrian warships in the North Sea forced the Danes to withdraw their blockade. The day after the battle, both sides agreed to a temporary ceasefire and Preussischer Adler steamed to Hamburg. In June, a second Austrian squadron arrived, which included the ship of the line Kaiser and the armoured frigate Don Juan d'Austria under the command of Vice-Admiral Bernhard von Wüllerstorf-Urbair. The now outnumbered Danish fleet remained in port for the rest of the war and did not seek battle with the Austro-Prussian fleet. The combined Austro-Prussian fleet embarked on a campaign to seize the North Frisian Islands. Preussischer Adler was part of the powerful fleet assembled under Wüllerstorf-Urbair for the attack. Due to her boiler problems, she remained in Hamburg during the operations and took no active role in their execution. Austrian and Prussian soldiers crossed over to the islands of Sylt and Foer on July 12 without naval support, though elements of the fleet provided support to the soldiers as they engaged the defending Danish forces. The war ended in a Danish defeat with the Treaty of Vienna on October 30th, and thereafter repair work began on Preussischer Adler's troublesome boilers. This work was finished by March 1865, and she was then taken to Danzig, where she was decommissioned for a more thorough overhaul. The project was delayed until October 1867, lasting until February 1868. She was recommissioned on the 11th of August 1868 to carry a delegation of senior naval officers to visit Russia. She got underway on the 20th of August with Vice-Admiral Eduard von Jachmann, the director of the Ministry for the Navy, aboard along with his adjutant, Kapitänleutnant, Captain Lieutenant, Reinhold von Werner, the Chief of Staff for the High Command, Kapitän zur See, KZS, Captain at Sea, Karl Ferdinand Bach, and the head of the Artillery Department, KK Georg von Schleinitz. They met with Vice Admiral Nikolai Krab, the Russian Minister of the Navy, and observed Russian naval maneuvers directed by Vice Admiral Grigory Butakov. Preussischer Adler then carried the Prussian officers back to Kiel and immediately took aboard King Wilhelm I, Frederick Francis II, Grand Duke of Mecklenburg-Schwerin, and Karl Schiel-Plessen, the new president of the province of Schleswig-Holstein. She carried them to the artillery training ship Thetis to observe experiments with torpedoes and naval mines in the Kieler Ford. Since the winter of 1868-1869 was mild, the ship remained in commission into early 1869, albeit with a reduced crew. On January 20th, 1869, Preussischer Adler carried material to be used in completing the new armoured frigate König Wilhelm, then being built at the Thames Iron Works in London. She also brought KK Heinrich Kohler, the head of the Acceptance Commission. Preussischer Adler remained in London at the disposal of the Acceptance Commission during the final months of work on König Wilhelm, and she escorted the ironclad back to Kiel on the 4th of May. She then went to participate in the ceremonies surrounding the founding of the port of Wilhelmshaven in the Jade Bight, held from May 29th to June 22nd. In August and September, she served with the newly formed Ironclad Squadron for its first exercises. She remained in service until October 13th, when she was decommissioned for the winter. The ship was recommissioned briefly in early 1870 for use as a harbour vessel in Kiel. She was mobilized after the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War in July, and she served as the flagship of Konteradmiral, Rear Admiral, Eduard Helt, the commander of the Marinestation der Ostsee, naval station of the Baltic Sea. Helt organized the Ostseestreitkräfte, Baltic Sea forces to assist in the defense of Prussia's Baltic coast. Preussischer Adler spent the war at Friedrichsort to observe the minefield that had been laid to protect the Kieler ford. The French Navy sent a squadron into the Baltic, but poor planning hampered its effectiveness. It possessed no landing forces and few shallow draft vessels suitable for operations close to shore. As a result, they withdrew on the 24th of September, and Helt hauled down his flag 6 days later. After the war, the Naval Command dissolved the Ostseestreitkräfte on the 19th of March, 1871. Preussischer Adler initially remained in service as a guard ship in Kiel before being reduced to a tender to the base command. She helped the ironclad Kronprinz tow a new floating dry dock from Swinemunde to Kiel from June 29th to July 1st. At the end of July, she was assigned to IR Shipyard Division to assist with the training of engineers and boiler room personnel. The next month, she carried Prince Friedrich Karl from Flensburg to Heiligenhafen. And in mid-August, the ship was transferred from Kiel to Wilhelmshaven, where she continued to serve as a tender. Prince Adalbert, the Inspector General of the Navy, boarded Preussischer Adler for his last cruise in the North and Baltic Seas in September. At the conclusion of the voyage, the ship returned to Wilhelmshaven, where she was decommissioned. In April 1872, Preussischer Adler was recommissioned for a new role: fishery protection. At the time, British fishing vessels were encroaching in German waters and had begun attacking German fishers to drive them off, prompting an appeal from Chancellor Otto von Bismarck to the Navy to address the problem. Preussischer Adler was tasked with patrolling German waters to expel British vessels illegally fishing. She began these operations on the 1st of July, replacing Blitz. She was decommissioned again in February 1873, and the next year she resumed training duties for engine and boiler room crews. She served as a fishery protection vessel again in July of that year, thereafter seeing short periods in her training role between 1875 and 1877, ultimately being decommissioned for the last time on April 30th, 1877. Owing to the poor condition of her hull, she was deleted from the Naval Register on the 27th of November. She remained in the fleet's inventory until November 1879, when she was used as a target ship in torpedo experiments. K.L. Alfred von Tirpitz, the new head of the torpedo department, wanted to test the effectiveness of the weapons on an iron-hulled vessel. She was sunk by 2 torpedoes from the Aviso Zieten in tests conducted on June 26th. During subsequent salvage operations to clear the wreck, the ship's bow ornament was removed and is preserved at the Merwick Naval School.